Welcome back. Let's talk more about the race for the White House and, more importantly, what it's going to take for both sides to energize their base and attract those undecided voters. So let's bring in my guests tonight. Well, on the one side, we have Executive Director of the Progressive Group Swing Left, Yasmin Radjy, and Senior Advisor of the National Federation of College Republicans, Chris Johnson, both up late with me tonight on the Final Five. Did I have that right? Did I have your title right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I haven't seen you in a while.
You've done this a couple times.
I know. Good to see you. Great to meet you. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
I just want to start right now. I haven't seen you in some time since, obviously, the former president picked J.D. Vance, and now that President Biden is out of the race. How much has this changed from your perspective?
Yeah, I picked a heck of a time to go on vacation.
I wanted you in last week, and I know he's on the beach.
No, I would gladly so. Yeah, things have changed dramatically. Obviously, this creates a much bigger problem for Republicans going up against the vice president as opposed to the current president. I think the president's speech last night was fine, but you got to see why we wanted to run against him. He wasn't as energetic and excited the way that the vice president is, and that provides a real challenge. But luckily, we're bringing in some youth energy with Senator Vance, who can kind of speak our language and hopefully win over some of those young voters who had moved away from Biden because of age concerns, could potentially move back to Harris, and we've got to keep them in our camp.
Before we get to you for a second, I just want to point out Chris has been on the show many times, and he was gracious enough to come in. He had some problems getting in. You still have your visitors back.
Oh, my gosh. Just an absolute banger of a day.
I knew I could say that to you, and you know I'm looking out for you, buddy.
That's appreciated.
So as you look at this, what has amazed me over the last couple of days, there's been all this acrimony, Democrats saying you can't kick Biden out. There were a lot of people who were upset about, but it seemed like that's all water under the bridge.
Totally, totally. I mean, it's just been amazing. Actually, like 2 hours before the show, there's a New York Times poll checking in on sort of, is everybody aligned around the unity that we're seeing? And it's 70% of Democrats right now who are thrilled about the unity behind Kamala Harris. And what we're seeing, Swing Left, we engage with donors and volunteers around the country, and it is just, I think anxiety was the primary emotion before Sunday, and what we're hearing is excitement, 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 and it's about Kamala, but it's also about, man, this is going to give us a chance to win the Senate. It's going to give us an even better chance to win the House, and we're excited that it feels like there's a unified front now in that enthusiastic mood.
There are a lot of people, though, who are looking at this and saying, sure, you know, the enthusiasm is there, but what does the vice president, what could she hang her hat on? What could she point to in terms of policy and say, this is what we have accomplished? Because a lot of Republicans are saying, hey, look, the border is going to be what they plan to address quite a bit.
I mean, the issues, as our folks go out and knock on doors every single weekend, and we have had levels of energy that are like 2018 levels of excitement, calling voters, knocking on their doors, the two issues that come up on every canvas, and this is in really swing districts, House, Senate, presidential, it's always abortion and it's always the economy. And not only do we have an administration that has a really strong track record in fighting for reproductive freedom, a real contrast with Republicans, but also this is an administration that has had some of the boldest economic policies. We were just talking before we came on about the American Rescue Plan, also some of the boldest climate investments that we've ever seen, all with the goal of getting more people back to work, lowering inflation rates. And what we see both at the doors and what we're also seeing in some of the polls that have come out this week is Democrats, or Kamala and Trump right now are tied on the economy. The most recent poll, it's 50-50. That's a shift from before, where a lot of voters were skeptical of where Biden might be. And because the economy is the main thing on people's minds, we see it as a real opportunity. Let's talk about it, and let's talk about Biden's record.
Does this come, because I know we've talked with you about this before. Democrats have really said, you know, the reproductive rights issue is going to be a big topic here. Social issues, economic issues, what could be the Achilles heel on the one side? What could Republicans take advantage of on the other?
I think the Achilles heel is ultimately not necessarily just a policy thing. It's the vibes. It's this, you know, I know the Charlie XCX thing is fun and the memes are good or whatever, but I think when you're a swing voter, you're not worried about what some pop star thinks. You're worried about putting food on the table, that kind of stuff. And so if they get the vibe, the impression that Democrats are more concerned about hanging out with celebrities, being these elites, being out of touch, that could be a real issue for Democrats. Now, on the Republican side, we can get back on message on the economy quite quickly. We can talk about how our policies are better for the economy. We can meet people where they're at. I mean, the biggest thing that I think is underrated in what is driving inflation, what is making people's concerns about how much things cost is the price of rent and the cost of just housing in general. And those are downstream of left of center policy positions where it is harder to build things, and that's going to lead into more of the climate discussion, because we just got a permitting bill this past week talking about how we can build clean energy. There are ways to, even as Democrats see success on the economy and climate, we can easily eke that back by pointing out, no, a lot of the problems that you're frustrated with are directly downstream of the policies of the Democratic Party. You
mentioned some of those, some of the congressional races and the Senate and the House, and obviously control is on the line for both parties going into November out there. I mean, how much does the last couple of days energize those down-ballot races as well?
So much. I mean, we were getting a lot of calls from frontline Democrats saying things were not looking good, and that things have really done a 180. So since the news on Sunday, we've been out fundraising both for the top of the ticket, all in grassroots contributions, and also down ballot. Just since Sunday, we've raised $530,000, all small dollar, mostly small dollar, some medium dollar donations. And I think that's a testament to the calls that we're getting from House Democrats. Is they've got polls out, in field, so we'll see. But what they're hearing is more enthusiasm. Things are getting much closer between the distance between the top of the ticket and down. And I think the really important thing to remember is it's a 4-seat margin that Democrats have to win in the House. Most of those seats are also in New York and California. So I know we're talking about the presidential, it's all we're thinking about, but a lot going on in those blue states too.
Let me ask you as we get ready to wrap this up, Chris, what do you think the group is right now within the Republican voting bloc that would be most energized by the events over the last couple of weeks and maybe might make some sort of difference?
I think it's going to be young men. I know that there's been a lot of people discussing the movement from the Democratic Party towards the Republican Party generally, and that is a lot of concern about how Democrats talk to young men generally, talking to them about their oppressors or that there's toxic masculinity, all those kind of things. And they've already started to move in this direction, and I think, unfortunately for the Democrats, that's the kind of rhetoric that the vice president often uses, this kind of progressive rhetoric about gender and masculinity and men generally, and they're going to continue to see a Democratic Party move further away from the way they feel the world is and the way that they view the world politically, and could potentially stay in our camp in a way that really shifts this election.
A lot can happen in the next 100 or so days. Yasmin, Radjy, Chris Johnson, thanks both for coming in tonight.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you. And the Final Five is back right after this.